Greetings, salutations, and good dub. I'm Kevin's Major, doing it major. And welcome to the All About Gemini video, the essence of Gemini Zodiac. Gemini, the third, the zodiac sign, and they say all good things come in threes, right? No, in my opinion, in my experience over the past 4 years, like really observing astrology, I think that Geminis are the devil of the zodiac. And let me tell you why. Now, Geminis, for the most part, is an air sign, so it deals with the intellect, it deals with, you know, our social ability, our communication, basically how we think, how we communicate, how we process information, share that information, even how we learn. The interesting about Geminis is that Gemini is a mutable sign, which makes, Geminis or people influenced under the Gemini zodiac, it makes us flexible, adaptable, versatile, and it helps us to transition easily. So, Mercury now, not Mercury, Gemini now, being about, your intellect, how you think, how you communicate, but it being changeable and adaptable and flexible. You could see how Geminis are two-faced or wishy-washy. One day they're like this, one day they're like that. Geminis could even be bipolar, like naturally. Um, the symbol is the twins, or like, I don't know how to, something like this with the bottom piece. And so, it's representing duality, is representing, different perspectives, or just a dialogue, or tango, because it takes two to tango. And so a Gemini is always battling between, I don't want to say two ideas, but at least two perspectives of an idea. Its ruling planet is Mercury. Mercury, again, being the planet of communication, thinking, learning, and processing information, and communicating. Mercury, why I keep saying Mercury? Because Mercury is the ruler, right? So Gemini is home. Mercury, sorry, I'm getting them mixed up. But Mercury, the planet or the energetic body, is home in Gemini. It loves to be there because Gemini, again, is all about being social, all about, learning, sharing information. It's also, kind of like, I don't want to say the house of friends, but like close ones. So your friends are here, people who you could bounce ideas off of, having dialogue, debates, discussion, reading, writing, presenting. All of those are like Gemini type of energy, or just like having banter, comedy, even music in some way, shape, or form, you know. Um, just bringing in that kind of light-hearted, fun, happy energy, and music and energy. It's in a detriment in Jupiter, and right now we have Jupiter in Gemini. Jupiter doesn't like to be here necessarily because Jupiter, again, is one of those big planets, all about having faith, hope. When Gemini, because it's an air sign, it's about logic and rational and thinking and processing. So you could see here faith and hope don't really go good with logic and rationale. You know what I'm saying? Jupiter also represents the wisdom and knowledge that you accumulate over time. You know, you have to go through certain experiences to have this wisdom and knowledge. Contrastly, Mercury is about, maybe reading a book and extrapolating or getting that knowledge, or maybe, having a conversation, going to a class and being able to get that information. Rather, Jupiter, again, is like, all right, you got to go through some shit. You feel me? So, Mercury, again, it kind of just shows you that Mercury is kind of more light and agile and faster. Doesn't really like to be, not Mercury, Gemini. I keep intertwining them. But Gemini, doesn't really like to go through like a long period of sitting down and studying and writing, but more, like short bursts where they could kind of always switch things up because, again, versatile, adaptable. You know what I'm saying? It's exalted. It's exalted in Virgo, and it's exalted in Virgo, basically. And we can't really say where it falls. I would say it would fall maybe somewhere in Pisces or something like this. Again, but exalted in Virgo because Mercury could be, detail oriented. Because they're mutable, again, it makes them as close as possible that you could get to that type of perfectionist energy. You know what I'm saying? Because they're fast, they're detail oriented, they could be quite meticulous, but in a short space of time. You know what I'm saying? Having to do that for long periods of time, maybe it could get a bit tricky. All right, let's talk about how the sun operates in Gemini. So the sun in Gemini brings light to our ideas, our expression, our curiosity, and even our adaptability. You see, the ego thrives through mental stimulation and variety and variation. Variety is the spice of life. And so the sun, transits a different sign every 30 days. So, the sun likes to switch it up, right? And Gemini is that switch it up zodiac sign, which kind of gives them like a bad rep. However, people most generally like to be around Geminis because Geminis could switch it up and they could always switch the mood from a down mood to a hyper mood to a happy mood, and they could break it back down. Most Geminis, especially males, have the gift of gab because most likely, their Mercury falls somewhere maybe in Gemini as well. Again, when Sun is in Gemini, Sun thrives here. It could be social, it could be intellectual, and again, it could be versatile and adaptable. So, here, there, and everywhere, fit yourself into different settings. You're not necessarily, reaching mastery. You know what I'm saying? In here, there, and everywhere. But you know what I'm saying? You could flex and you could be adaptable. Gemini sun energy likes to connect the dots, you know what I'm saying? And always asking questions, but stays on the move. So it's curious, it's agile, kind of likes to bounce around. However, negatively, this could be like quite scattered. This could be flighty or shifty, inconsistent, and just those kind of negative attributes that make you think that a person is like unreliable and, what I mean, stuff along that nature. So when we look at the positive attributes of the Gemini traits or characteristics, for the most part, most Geminis, especially males that I know, they have the gift of gab. They could talk like they're very charismatic speakers. You know what I'm saying? They're either witty or they tell good stories or just how they say things, they keep you intrigued. Um, Geminis also are quite curious, they ask interesting questions and they just want to know more. Again, it's the sign of thinking, processing information. So a Gemini wants to know more, or it influences us to be a bit more curious. Geminis are also quick thinking. Yeah, I remember having a conversation with one of my Gemini brethren, and like I couldn't get a word in. You feel me? And not because like he didn't want to give me a second, but it's like he could think and speak so fast. It's like before he could even answer the question, he's already posing another one. You know what I'm saying? Gemini Gemini sun again, or the influence of Gemini again, makes us adaptable, flexible, versatile. A lot of Geminis that I know are good at multiple things, and they could fit into an array of social situations. They could be with like the common average Joe, you know what I'm saying? And the next thing you know, they're with the royals in Buckingham Palace. You feel me? And they're not out of place at all. Geminis, again, or a heavy Gemini influence, causes one to be open minded, and just brings a certain level of cleverness, you know what I'm saying? Just because you could think fast and you're thinking outside of the box and always, you know, being adaptable and changing to circumstances. On a neutral tone, Geminis usually have great I don't want to say great perspective, but because again they're mutable, adaptable, they're the twins, you know, they have like a dual nature, and so they could see both sides of circumstances and situations, even though they might find it difficult to choose, and they may tend to choose the you know the wrong perspective at times. They could see, you know, their side and the other person's side. On a neutral tone, again, Geminis are quite chatty or talkative, not always deep and talking about, you know, real potent matters. However, they're just like chatterboxes, quite talkative and always interesting, you know. So they may not be talking about, you know what I'm saying, something hardcore, but you know they'll keep you engaged. They're also great listeners as well. They might jump between, you know, different conversations, and you know, different the conversation could get scattered or chaotic. However, like, you know, I think they're good listeners and they're always learning, right? As Gemini, as like a as an individual, but the influence, you know, it could make you a bit more social or chatty, and also influence a person to be more curious, which could cause you to go out and learn some stuff. On a negative note, Geminis could be quite superficial or flighty. They could also be like, again, scattered and two-faced, say one thing but do the other thing, or say one thing today and then the next day they say something else, and never really consistent with what they think, how they feel, or what they want to do. um, that is possible. Quite inconsistent. Again, here, there, everywhere, indecisive. Here, there, everywhere, don't know what to do, not sure what to do. Really passionate about one thing this day, and then the next month, you know, it's something else. Um, and we spoke about Geminis having the gift of gab, or being, you know, master communicators. And so, on a negative note, they could really manipulate others. They could inspire. Yo, a Gemini could inspire you to do anything. You know what I'm saying? A Gemini would inspire you to like climb to the top of this chimney because I know you could do it. And when you climb to the top, you're gonna realize that that's what you really needed to do to unlock all of your latent abilities. You know what I'm saying? Like a Gemini will get you to do anything. You feel me? So it's it's like a double-edged blade, the Gemini itself and what they could do, um, manipulating a person, right? Also inspiring them, because a Gemini is also like mutable ear. They do have the perspective or the logic, but they may lack emotional intelligence, emotional maturity, and they could avoid emotional depth. All right, last but not least, Gemini season that is slowly approaching. So the Gemini season starts May 20th and is going to go on until June 19th. Yeah, or June 20th, just about. And so we could look out for upgrades when it comes to our communication. Again, Sun loves to be here, makes us more social, more communicative, more adaptable to people, places, things, circumstances, and situations. So an upgrade when it comes to our communication and our social ability. This is a perfect time for writing, speaking, networking, creating music, anything to do with like getting your voice out there. You know what I'm saying? Whether it is, vocally, physically, or even artistically, just a great time, for presenting, for communicating, for being social. A great time for mental expansion. So when it comes to learning anything right now, this Gemini season, that 30-day window is great for learning things. So think about a course, or reading some books, watching some debates or podcasts, or maybe even participating in these activities. This Gemini season really supports it. Again, this season is going to make us more sociable. So sociable or social motion, where we could be having light-hearted connections that could lead up to something. Also tapping into that sibling or friendship energy, where what I'm saying, we could be having fun with the people who are around us, our close ones. And even if we have to not move house, but short distance travel to connect with certain individuals, um, be in certain locations, to just have you know that good feeling, that joyful feeling. you know all of that is going to be on the cards. We need to look out for information overload. We need to look out for all of the distractions that are going to be coming via the media. We need to look out for gossiping, or being a chatty patty, being too revealing, and also decision fatigue, because Sun and Mercury kind of it feels like all of the energies are sped up. And I know that Mercury is going to slide into Gemini while Sun is in Gemini, and so our thinking and our communication is going to be ramped up at some point in time. So we got to look out for just mental fatigue in some way, shape, or form. All right, we're at the tail end. We have a few affirmations, or two affirmations, for this Gemini season. The first one is, I am open to learning, exploring, and connecting. Gemini, textbook Gemini. Also, my words carry power and I use them wisely. Yeah, we need to use our words wisely. Again, this Gemini influence could make us inspirational, but also manipulative if we want to. Stay grounded during this time. Stay grounded. A heavy dose of grounding is prescribed here, double prescription. All right, because Gemini is definitely going to make us airheaded. I don't know off the top. I guess I could go looking. I don't want to make this video too long-winded, but we are going to have Neptune in Aries. We're going to have Chiron in Aries. I'm not sure Saturn is going to be in Aries, and Aries is this type of impulsive, act first, ask questions later energy. So is Gemini, right? So is Uranus. So we have a few volatile energetic forces that are going to be at play during this Gemini season. So we need to be particularly careful, when it comes to acting out without thinking. We don't want to crash out. We don't want to do something that we're going to regret, or that could, really, really set us back. All right, so Gemini season is an invitation to get curious, stay sharp, and connect more. Stay conscious and be aware. Keep your minds open and let your words be as a spell that you could cast in order to achieve your your desires. Major farewell until we meet or greet again. I am Kevis Major, doing it major, and I hope you guys enjoy the Mercury season. Gemini season. What you say, Mercury season? and then styling off too. You man styling off about Mercury. But you don't know the Gemini season. Alright guys. See you in the next video.